Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Record Rangers podcast, brought to you in association with NordVPN, easily the fastest, secure, and risk-free VPN for all your online privacy needs. I was going to say I'm delighted to say I'm joined. Actually, I'm really joining you guys. I feel a bit of a fraud gate crashing your podcast. So your regular duo of Scott McDermott and Andy Newport, I'm joining them. Must be a big game, guys.
Back together. It's been a while, Gav. It's been
just needed a top quality host, Gav. So others weren't available, so you'll have to do.
And you've even earned us a sponsorship deal in that time that we've been away. Anyways, I say it must be a big game, big week, of course. Scott, I'll start with you because you were at Livingston on Sunday. On paper, held 2-2 by the bottom side, down to 10 men. Livingston's not ideal preparation going into what's a huge Old Firm game on Sunday, the first of a double-header. Strange game a bit, Scott, because, you know, if you take the actual game itself, Rangers did, you know, they did create plenty of chances, but the bottom line is it's 2 points dropped. How do you think that is going to impact them going into Sunday in terms of the mindset?
I don't think it'll have too much an impact, if I'm honest, Gav. I think these Old Firm games, these derby games probably kind of stand alone. In terms of the importance and the magnitude of this one, it certainly stands alone. I can't remember off the top of my head what important kind of league game, just in terms of the absolute must win, the Hearts factor, basically, where these two are doing the chasing, and defeat is unthinkable for Rangers or Celtic at Ibrox. So, I don't think the Livy game will have much an impact. But just in terms of points and in terms of the title race, it was obviously a huge setback. Losing more ground on Hearts, and also just the kind of manner of the performance. I mean, being at the game, obviously there's the big comeback, and they rally towards the end. They come back for 2-0 down to get a 2-each draw. But you're watching it thinking that this shouldn't really cloud the fact that they're 2-0 down in the first place to the team that's bottom of the league and have only got 10 men. And that's a major issue. I mean, for the first time in games like this, I felt Rangers lacked a bit of urgency, a bit of tempo, a bit of intensity, especially actually at the back, because they were to me, they felt so kind of vulnerable and fragile to counter-attacks. And Livy maybe didn't have too many of them, but whenever Livy did go at their back line, they looked a threat, and that shouldn't really be happening. I mean, if you're in a title race, you must have the mindset that even when you're maybe not playing at your best, you need to be solid and secure at the back. You need to get, you need to have clean sheets. You need to look like you're not going to concede, so that if you do have to nick games, then you can. And Rangers aren't really in that position at the moment. So it was really disappointing. I thought a lot of big players didn't turn up. And just in terms of the title, I said last night on Hotline Live, I mean, people keep asking me, or have been asking me the last couple of months, who are the favourites, who do I think will win it? And I've actually never said outright I thought Rangers would win it. And the reason for that is, despite the good run that Danny Rowe had got them on, despite the job he'd done in getting them back into contention, I've just never felt convinced that Rangers looked or were playing like champions. And I'm maybe slightly changed after the Hearts game, because I thought, in a huge game, the comeback, he had a real attack intent that day. And you're thinking, right, that could be the turning point. And then they go to Livy and perform like they did on Sunday. That's why it was another big setback. And look, Sunday's a must win for them. They have to beat Celtic to stay in it. But are they really looking like champions? Are they playing like champions? Are they defending like champions? I wouldn't say so at the minute.
Well, that's the thing in Scotland. I asked you at the outset there, how does it affect going into Sunday? I suppose one of the big things is that the fact that Celtic actually lost. So that changes it a bit as well. And you're right. I mean, Rangers are getting away with the season they're having because if this was a Celtic as they had been under Brendan Rodgers, for example, they would be Celtic probably out of sight, wouldn't they?
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. I mentioned to Andy this morning, a few weeks ago, Jack Butland, I think it was before the Hearts game, I think it was Andy that actually asked him about 2 years ago, under Philippe Clement, Rangers were well in the title race, and I think they were ahead at one point at the top of the table. And they squandered it. I mean, they dropped points at Dundee, Ross County, Celtic, the 3 each game at Ibrox.
What's all was there?
They basically threw it away. And Jack Butland said, "Oh no, we've learned lessons for that." And I know it's a changed squad, but I mean the likes of Butland, Suter, Tavernier, Raskin, all still there. I don't know if they have learned lessons, because to me they're doing the same thing now. No away games at Motherwell, Hibs, Livingston. Failed to see any of them off in the last few weeks. That's no the form of champions. That's no title winning for them. No, you need to go to these away grounds and win. So I think that'll be a concern for Danny Rowe.
And Andy, Scott touched on defensive fragility at Livingston. It was in evidence coming just days after John Souttar signs a new deal. A lot of fans were already sort of divided on whether he should get a new contract. Probably bad timing to turn in the kind of performance he did on Sunday. I mean, I noticed some fans even saying they wouldn't play him on Sunday. It would be, they'd bring in Giga instead to play alongside Fernandes. Is that a step too far? Would you stick with him?
Listen, I think Giga's been better since he came back from the AFCON, but I think there was performances, 2 or 3 performances he put in before the sort of winter break or the sort of AFCON break he had when he was a total bomb scare. So no, I wouldn't be going that far. Listen, I think John Souttar has those kind of performances that he had at the weekend from time to time, but I think on the whole he's Rangers' most reliable centre back. Listen, I think it's a bit like Jack Butland, the mistakes that he makes from time to time. I think if you take those out of his game, then frankly they're playing at a far higher level than Rangers. I think it's the fact that they do have those kind of moments that means that's why they're still here effectively. But just to go on with what Scott was saying, I didn't think any of the players really, especially first half, covered themselves in glory. I mean, you're looking, I lost count how many times Nico Raskin gave away the ball. James Tavernier in the first half was really, really slack. Obviously, Souttar had a bad afternoon as well. Scovolson, I'm sure we're going to discuss, has yet to catch fire. Did nothing, deservedly taken off early doors. I mean, there's just, this is a game Rangers, if they were properly serious about their title ambitions and making this title statement, that's a game you go and win 4-0 and get the job done early. Listen, we know the sliding door moments that you can get in football sometimes. If Ture Romans scores that early header that the goalkeeper Pryor turns onto the post, I think it's a different game entirely. But I think this is the problem with this Rangers team, is that, and it has been the problem with Rangers squads for a while now, actually. It's one setback seems to rock them at times. Instead of just forgetting about it, it seems to play in their mind. You could see, even though it was only half time, and okay, they were only 1-0 down, but they became a frantic nature at their play, especially for the goal. You think about that chance that Chermiti has at 1-0. Okay, it's a scramble in the box, but all he has to do is side foot it to the side and in the open corner of the goal, and he scores. But again, this maybe speaks a bit about Yusuf Chermiti and the type of striker he is, how unpredictable and flaky, frankly, is. He just lashes at it. No composure, no sense of calmness at the vital moment, no ice in the veins, just total rush of blood to the head, puts his boot through it, and it's not even a good save by the goalkeeper, it just hits off the goalkeeper. So I think this is the, you talk about Danny Rowles talked about when he's signing players, he wants guys that get that mindset. Well, these are the crunch moments in a league. You're 1-0 down away from home, just go and get your equaliser. Like the thing that they did so well against Hearts last week was that they equalised quickly. They didn't allow the tension and anxiety to fill around Ibrox. They killed that quickly by equalising. Had they done that on Saturday, I'm pretty sure Sunday, I'm pretty sure they would have went on and won the game. But by not, dealing with what happened, by not taking their chances when they came, by allowing Livingston to get confident and crucial to get set and to get comfortable in the game. We're just going to sit and defend for the next 80 minutes. Okay, they fight back, but if you're trying to win a game from 2-0 down with 10 minutes to go, you're always going to be asking for trouble. So, for me, the Rangers, I agree entirely with Scott. I still think it's too close to call who won the league, but I don't think there's any doubt that Hearts are the favourites now.
Yeah.
In terms of that defensive fragility, Gav, just quickly, the goals on Sunday. I mean, as Andy says, even in a title race, anytime you can have a moment in a game that goes against you. And the Livingston first goal felt like that. Rangers had obviously kind of dominated the ball up to that point, and there was a Romans header and another couple of wee half chances. The Livingston first goal came totally out of the blue. I mean, what a finish it is for the centre-back on the volley. So those things can happen, but as Andy says, it's about how you react to that. They come out at half time, knowing what they have to do. They're only a goal behind, and they defend them for the second goal. I mean, from start to finish, for John Souttar's slack pass to Tavernier on the halfway line, him losing it, Souttar then chasing the Livingston player down the left and diving into a challenge that he doesn't need to make and conceding the free kick. Free kick comes in, they clear it, and everybody charges towards the ball, leaving Lewis Smith on his own. I mean, the defending was diabolical for the second goal, and you can't get away with that. And that's against the bottom team in the league, a team that's no won since August.
Yeah,
you're making those kind of mistakes, those kind of errors, lapses of concentration, slackness, sloppiness.
Yeah,
that cannot happen if you're in the midst of a title race with 10 games to go.
People talk about Hearts and Celtic digging out wins at the end. The problem with Rangers has been, it's not that they've lost games, it's the momentary mistakes that have seemed cost them wins, and they're drawn. There's 11 draws this season. I mean, that is, you can't win a league when you've drawn 11 games. Listen, if they do, I think there's an argument made whoever wins the league this year is probably the weakest champions in a long, long time. And that's no disrespect to Hearts, because they've had a fantastic season. But the fact that Hearts are in a title race tells you that Rangers and Celtic are poor teams. Because it just goes to reason with the amount of the financial advantage they've got. The only way Hearts get into this is if Rangers Celtic.
Well, exactly. So it would be, you would never criticise Hearts, I mean, sorry, but if I know the point you're making, it would arguably be the kind of lowest, poorest standard, for a long, long time. If that was the case, if it was Celtic, Rangers would certainly say that. But I mean, you caveat it if Hearts were to win it by saying, it's the first team in 40 years outside the Old Firm to win it. So I mean, it could only be a good thing from their point of view.
I mean, it's not to downplay their achievement, because for any team out with Old Firm to even to split the Old Firm is an incredible achievement. But I don't think there's any doubt that, if you put this Hearts team up against even Steven Gerrard's Rangers of 5 years ago, of a Brendan Rodgers Celtic team, or a Martin O'Neill Celtic team, or a Dick Abicat Rangers team, I think they get the floor of them, frankly. But it's still a bit. If Hearts going to win the league this year, it's still a fantastic achievement. It's still a monumental achievement.
You mentioned Andy Chermiti earlier there with a chance. I know you spoke to Chris Boyd yesterday. Chermiti, he's played in 30 games this season, scored in 4 of them. I read that stat earlier. And Chris Boyd you spoke to him yesterday. I read your piece today. He was talking again about how Rangers should have gone for Shankland. That's a point you've made. I know you've made, Scott, repeatedly. But obviously Chermiti was coming back off his hat trick the previous week when he was getting all the plaudits. He obviously had Nadiri up there with him, who wasn't fit enough to start on Sunday. How much do you think he missed the German on Sunday, and how much would he benefit if he can start on this Sunday?
Do you know what I think? What I think Nadiri does is he takes the pressure off Chermiti, in the sense that, and I say this knowing that it was Chermiti who scored the goals last week, but Nadiri's the one with the nose for goal. He's the one. I mean, I was speaking to Chris Boyd yesterday. He was talking about, you look at Chermiti and he's here, there, he's everywhere. He's running channels. He's running out to the wing. He never seems to be where you want him to be, in which is between the post and the 6-yard box. Whereas that is really what Nadiri does. And I think by Nadiri actually occupying centre-backs and making the kind of runs that a proper number 9 makes.
Yeah.
It sometimes leaves Chermiti in the kind of unorthodox spots where he seems to score from. So I don't think there's any doubt he's not. Yeah, I think he's come on leaps and bounds, Chermiti, in terms of his general play. But that's just from the really low bar he'd set at the start of the season. I think he's, you can tell he's more confident in how he links up. But if you're a Rangers number 9, you're judged by how many goals you score. And as you say, he scored in 7 goals in total, 4 games, sorry. It's just not good enough. It's just nowhere near good enough, especially for the money they paid. I know there's been a lot of chat about whether Kevin Thelwell should be given a reprieve, given some of the way the guys that he's signed have sort of kicked on. But I kind of don't buy that either, because at the end of the day, Rangers needed guys that could hit the ground running from day one this season. Too many of them have taken a long time to get up to speed, and really required Danny Rowe to come in and show them how to play and how to defend, crucially. But if you spent £8 million on a centre forward, at the very least he needs to be scoring 20 goals, probably. I mean, right now I don't even know if you can be confident in Chermiti hitting double figures this season. I mean, I really don't.
I think Scotland, when the Deary signed, I remember talking to you about how Rangers could line up. Remember, we were talking about here's how they could line up. And I think I said to you, in the kind of lineup that we picked was Chermiti in behind the Deary, because a lot of his good work that he has done has been sort of outside the box, and he's not. But maybe he could be more effective as a sort of number 10. Do you think? Did you think that at the Hearts game?
I thought at the Hearts game they played more of as a 2.
Yeah.
And I actually quite liked that, and I thought it worked against Hearts, because I felt with the 2 big strikers, it caused chaos up there. I think I said to Andy on a previous podcast, we think that first goal Rangers scored when the Deary puts pressure on Steinvender for the OG. Romans gets to the byline, puts a cross in. Chermiti is the first header. Mikey Moore's there to back it up with a shot off the bar, and then the Deary's there to force it in. It was bodies in the box. Winning second balls, and I think playing the 2 up front definitely gives you that. And but we'll probably discuss it. But I'm sure if Celtic are without Austin Trusty at the weekend, and they have to go with a makeshift central defence, Liam Scales, and looks like it could be a Dane Murray or a Ben Arthur or whatever. I think Danny Rowe will be tempted to go with that 2 up front again. That 4-2-2-2, if you want to call it that. It could be a 4-4-2, whatever it is. The two up front definitely can cause a bit of damage. And going back to your first point, I do think Chermiti benefits for having the Deary beside him. You look at Chermiti's first goal in the Hearts game. It's Nadiri who drops off, picks up the ball for Skov Olsen, and plays Chermiti in for the first goal. So I think that would be tempting for the manager to go with that again. He's obviously got other options. I mean, he could go back to just the 1 up front. He obviously played kind of 1 up front Saturday and Sunday with Mikey Moore just off Chermiti. Or does he go to a more kind of conventional 4-3-3? Does he bring like Diomande back in, maybe shore it up a wee bit in the middle of the park and just play 1 up and 2 wingers? He has got options. I mean, that's what the January signings have given him. Despite one or two wee knocks, but I think he'd be tempted to go with 2 up again. If Nadiri's fully fit, which you need to assume he will be at the moment for Sunday, I think he'd be tempted to go with a really similar lineup to the one that played against Hearts.
Yeah, Andy, we did a piece of 3 of us this morning online, 5 burning Rangers questions for Danny Rowe on Sunday, so I can just go over a couple of them. Pick your midfield 2 from 3, Raskin, Diomande, Chukwani. Obviously, Chukwani, £4 million just over in January, so you would think that he would be in the running. Raskin plays well against Celtic, hasn't played, he's not been at his best in every game. I suppose there is an argument there why he's only raising himself for the big occasion. Should he not be doing it more in games like Sunday? And then Diomande, a lot of people probably think maybe he's been harshly dropped to the bench. do you stick with? Is it better the devil you know, Raskin and Diamandi, two who have done well in this fixture, and the new signings on the bench?
I think you've seen of late. I mean, think back to the Hearts game. Diamandi off the bench, when the game becomes a bit broken, it's a bit scattered, a bit of a basketball game. I think that's been Chermiti's best when he's got space to sort of get those big sort of rangy legs of his moving. I think he's been good, really good in some of the recent derby wins. But I think Rangers are going to want to use their power. They've added some real physicality to the team in January. We think of Robbins, Chukwani, Nadiri, even Scott Olsen's on the taller side. So I can imagine Rangers, especially set pieces, which will be a big facet of the game. I think they'll want to make use of that. And I think the bench will be crucial. But I do think Diamandi and Gassama this season, their best performances have been as impact players, sort of coming on late on in games. And you even saw in the win at over Hearts, was Diamandi and Gassama that sort of lead the charge for Chermiti's hat-trick goal. So I imagine that's the sort of role that Danny Rowe will have earmarked for those two guys.
Those two. Well, what about you, Scott? Because Andy's, give me your midfield too, but then Andy's moving us on to the wingers. Olsen, a lot of criticism. He hasn't lived up to the hype, certainly so far. He's obviously, we know that he didn't have a lot of games time. So would you start Olsen? What about Gassama? Would you bench him? And who's your midfield?
It's difficult because a few of the players you mentioned were poor at the weekend. You have to say that. Scott Olsen getting taken off at half time, did nothing for 45 minutes again against the bottom side in the league. However, Scott Olsen and Chukwani were signed for games like this. This was the reason they were brought in January. Big money spent in Chukwani. In terms of Scott Olsen, I mean, there's a loan fee involved. Rangers have got a deal in place to go and try and sign this guy in the summer if they wish. For a substantial fee, you have to say, and people might be questioning that at the moment. But I think they have to play. Chukwani, I was really impressed with his first few games, and I thought this boy's going to be a top player for Rangers, and I have to stick by that. But he was disappointing on Sunday. Livingston away, his physicality and his power, those are the types of games you're looking for him to dominate the middle of the park. I didn't feel as if he did that on Sunday. It was, his passing wasn't in, his touch wasn't in, couldn't get control of the game. He was eventually subbed as well. But I do think him and Raskin will start. I agree with Andy. Diamandi maybe is a wee bit unlucky, but will probably find himself on the bench again. And in terms of the wide players, Mikey Moore has to play. Scott Olsen again, because I think he's been signed for days like this, has to play. So it probably means Gassama, who again was poor on Sunday, he'll probably need to start on the bench. And I agree with Andy as well. I do think Gassama, he is a good impact player. When teams are tired and it gets to the last 20 minutes of games, he's a guy that can really hurt you with his pace and his dribbling ability and his running power, especially in the counter-attack. So, who knows what will happen between now and the weekend. We don't know how fit these guys are in terms of if anybody's picked up knocks, but at the moment, I think he'll go with a similar team that played against Hearts, and it'll be that kind of 4-4-2, Moore and Olsen. Whether they play wide or not, I would imagine they play inside again. Nadiri, Chermiti up front, we're asking and Chukwani sitting.
Scott, just to go back to what you're saying there, Scott Olsen, I mean, that deal was sort of hyped and the fans were so excited about it, and clearly he hadn't played. Basically, only played for 3 months before he came here.
Mm-hmm.
But are you now thinking that deal, in terms of being made permanent, I think it's an £8 million fee that they would have to shell out? Do you think they might have having second thoughts about that? Is there now a scenario where that deal doesn't take place?
I think as it stands right now, Andy, you'd need to say, aye, they'll be having second thoughts about it, because you need to caveat it, by talking about his fitness and his match sharpness, as you say. Hasn't played a lot of football. You can tell he's still finding his feet. in Scotland, still getting used to his new surroundings, new teammates. But he was signed. Rangers knew that when they signed him. He was signed, and I know they'll say, it's again for the future. But they signed him in January because they needed him to make an impact now. I mean, he was the guy in an attacking sense they thought could get them over the line in the title race. Since they'd get back into it. And at the moment, as harsh as it might be, you need to say he's not done that. He's not shown enough to show you that he's going to impact and influence.
There's been a couple of moments, but that's all they are moments, aren't
they? Fleeting moments. That one obviously against Kelly when he scored. And then I thought his cross for the Chermiti second goal for the header against Hearts was brilliant. But I mean, he looked disinterested on Sunday. I don't know whether it was the venue, the plastic pitch, but he just looked disinterested.
I did think about that myself because the pitch undoubtedly looked tricky. I mean, he wasn't the only one that sort of struggled on it. I thought Raskin looked uncomfortable, but you're thinking if he's come from Denmark, he's played with Michelin. I need to double check, but I'm pretty sure they play with plastic pitches over there. So I mean, this can't be a new experience for him.
No, listen, he might still have a big impact in this title race if he is finding his feet and he feels he's getting better week on week. He could still come to the fore in this running, but 10 games to go. He has to get a move on for Rangers' sake. And I think if Danny Rowe was to start, just say Danny Rowe was to start him and Chukwueze on the bench, that would raise serious questions about why these guys were signed. If you're getting into arguably the biggest game of the season so far, and you've got a £4 million midfielder, potentially an £8 million winger on the bench for these games, he has to start them.
So that's been the big complaint about Rangers for a number of years now. Is whenever they sign somebody, they end up going back to the guys who have tried to fail, tried to let them down before. If they're doing that again, then I mean, I think Scott's right. I think that's a bad, ominous sign for again the guys that are doing the sort of recruitment at the club. You had a second go at signing guys this season. If they still can't get the job done, then something maybe more drastic has to happen in that level.
But you've also got to go with what you see. I mean, you can't just pick players because you're paid that money. I mean, you need to win the game. But anyway, what I'll do to finish off, Andy, so your back page story today, Chris Boyd lose in your goners. So whoever loses on Sunday is out of the title race, says Chris Boyd. Do you agree? And give us a score prediction.
Yes, I do agree. I think both Rangers and Celtic this season have been pretty fortunate. They've had repeated slip-ups, and every time they do, Hearts seem to have won, either that weekend or the weekend after, and it's allowed the title race to stay quite tight and compact. I mean, here we are, 10 games to go, and there's 6 points separating the three teams. I mean, you think about it, Rangers have drawn 11 games, Celtic have lost 7 games, so that tells you that whenever one team falters, the other two teams involved also seem to have a slip-up. So, but I'm just not entirely sure how long you can count on that happening, especially with 10 games to go. Listen, I think all three teams will drop points from here out. I think there will be moments when they all sort of cut each other's throats, but end of the day, Rangers are trailing. Celtic to win their game in hand. They can be behind even on that basis. So, I think Rangers have to be pretty much as punch perfect as they can be. From I think they're needing something in the region of 9 wins if they're going to win the league, and I think that has to happen. That has to start on Sunday.
Score prediction.
I think I've said for the piece we wrote online 2-0.
2-0. I went for 2-0 as well.
That was me. I went 2-0 first. Just
no. First and you copied, right?
I tend to agree. I just think going 7 points behind will be too much for Rangers. The way Hearts are playing, and I know obviously Hearts will get games against Rangers and Celtic still to play, and Motherwell, who I've not even mentioned, they're going to have a big impact, a big say in this title race as well. But I think 7 points at this stage of the season would be too much. But crucially, aside from that, I just think the psychological damage, psychological blow of losing, let's be honest, losing to a poor Celtic team at Ibrox in the midst of this title race, when Rangers are kind of still seen as the team who are kind of on the up, if you like, and have kind of forced their way back into it. To lose an Old Firm game at Ibrox like Sunday with such importance on it, I just think psychologically, in terms of this squad, it would be a massive setback and difficult to recover from in a short space of time. And obviously they'd have the cup game against Celtic the following week, so who knows what kind of position they'll both be in getting into that one. But I think if either team loses it, they would pretty much be out yet. And I just think home advantage for Rangers, with the crowd behind them, if they can replicate the performance against Hearts, certainly in an attacking sense, and if they can tighten up at the back, I think they should be too strong for Celtic at home. And on top of that, if Celtic are missing the likes of Trusty, and I'm not saying Trusty's not a brilliant player, but to lose another centre-back for them, and if they were to get into it with a Scales and Dane Murray or the boy Arthur, I think Rangers would be too strong for them. I think they could win by a couple of goals as well.
Great, okay. Well, we'll find
out. What's your prediction?
I said 2-0 as well. I said earlier I went for 2-0 first in that online piece and you copied me. But anyway.
There's one scoreline to avoid in your cooking on Sunday.
Well, we'll be back next week to find out. Okay, thanks, Scott. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Don't forget you can catch us on the usual socials on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, as always. Get your comments in, especially nice ones. And thanks again to our sponsors, NordVPN. Catch you next week.